It is a recipe for the United States seeing itself losing its place as Africa's preferred trading partner.
Is there any sense in maintaining an organization that intends to serve but fails to do so? ECOWAS is designed to benefit West African countries, but it seems ineffective in addressing the recent crisis in Senegal. However, if it proves incapable of assisting in a significant crisis, why does it face criticism when military leaders take control of nations? Was it solely created to criticize leaders whom Africans hold in high regard? Is it merely a puppet? Let's find out. West Africa is facing some difficult times because of the ECOWAS. Things are not going as smoothly as anticipated. But what is the current state of West Africa's political unity and stability? West Africa is currently undergoing a pivotal moment in its political history, marked by a series of developments that have cast a shadow on the region's unity and stability. A key event that has captured international attention is the urgent meeting of West African ministers in Nigeria, convened to address the announcements made by military leaders in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger regarding their intention to withdraw from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. This unexpected turn of events has raised concerns about the region's ability to maintain a cohesive political front. But the postponing of the recent elections has also played a part in accelerating the conflict in the region. So, how has Senegal's recent decision to postpone its presidential election impacted the region's political dynamics? Senegal, traditionally regarded as one of West Africa's strongholds of democracy, has added complexity to the region's political landscape. The decision by the president to postpone the presidential election, scheduled for February 25, has sparked protests from opposition groups and civil society. This move challenges the stability and political unity that has long characterized Senegal and, by extension, the broader West African region. The events in Senegal have turned the spotlight on the delicate balance between democratic principles and the potential for internal discord. ECOWAS, designed to foster economic cooperation and political solidarity among member states, now grapples with a dual crisis. On one hand, there is the challenge of addressing the concerns raised by military withdrawals in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. On the other hand, the organization must face the internal tensions sparked by political decisions within its member states, exemplified by the postponement of the election in Senegal. The effectiveness of ECOWAS in dealing with these challenges raises questions about its role in maintaining stability and upholding democratic values. Does postponing the election in Senegal reflect broader issues in West Africa's democratic governance? The decision to delay the election in Senegal until December 15th, amidst opposition protests, has broader implications for democratic norms and the functioning of political institutions within the region. The expulsion of opposition members from the National Assembly further complicates the picture, challenging the perception of Senegal as a stable democracy. These events force a re-evaluation of the institutional grounding of the country's political framework and raise concerns about the state of democratic governance in West Africa. What does the rising tide of West Africa's military takeovers affect the region's political stability? West Africa has witnessed a surge in military takeovers since 2020, presenting a significant challenge to the region's political stability. The events in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, where military leaders have announced their intention to withdraw from ECOWAS, highlight the fragility of democratic governance. The rise of military regimes threatens the cooperative foundations that have historically characterized the region. The current situation demands a united front from ECOWAS member states to safeguard constitutional governance and counteract the trend of military interventions. And does the expulsion of opposition members in Senegal impact democratic norms in the region? The expulsion of opposition members from the National Assembly in Senegal raises questions about the broader democratic norms within West Africa. The decision to remove opposition voices from political institutions challenges the inclusivity and diversity essential for a thriving democracy. It reflects a broader trend where political dissent is suppressed, further complicating the region's democratic governance and raising concerns about political pluralism. What role does ECOWAS play in influencing political developments and maintaining stability in West Africa? Is it failing? Traditionally seen as a regional force capable of influencing political developments and maintaining stability, ECOWAS is currently confronted with a crisis. The challenges presented by military withdrawals and internal political tensions test the organization's efficacy in dealing with internal challenges to democratic governance. The events in Senegal serve as a microcosm of these broader issues, prompting a critical examination of ECOWAS's role in upholding democratic values and its ability to navigate the complex political dynamics within the region. It sounds like West Africa is facing a problem that seems impossible to solve. But what about the meeting between West African ministers? Why did the meeting of West African ministers face additional crises upon arrival in Abuja? The meeting of West African ministers faced a cascade of crises upon their arrival in Abuja, marking a pivotal moment in the region's political landscape. The primary catalyst for these challenges was the unexpected and controversial decision by Senegal's president to postpone the presidential election scheduled for February 25th. This unforeseen development injected a sense of urgency and discord into the complex discussions among the ministers. Senegal, historically regarded as one of West Africa's resilient democracies, found itself at the center of a storm as the president's announcement to delay the election raised eyebrows both domestically and within the regional community. The postponement decision came as a shock, disrupting the initial agenda of the ministerial meeting, which was convened to address the recent announcements by military leaders in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger regarding their intention to withdraw from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Initially gathering to navigate the delicate situation of military withdrawals, the ministers were now compelled to address the internal democratic processes within one of their member states. This unexpected twist further strained the region's political unity and stability as the ministers grappled with the need to reconcile divergent views within ECOWAS regarding the postponement. The decision to delay the election in Senegal had far-reaching consequences, triggering a domino effect of reactions. Opposition parties and civil society within Senegal vehemently protested the move, arguing that it undermined the democratic process and raised questions about the government's commitment to upholding constitutional governance. This internal discord in Senegal, a country previously seen as a beacon of political stability, added complexity to the broader regional dynamics. Moreover, the postponement in Senegal resonated beyond its borders, sending concern throughout West Africa. The ministers faced the challenge of addressing the immediate implications of Senegal's decision and the potential ramifications for the entire region. The postponement threatened the perception of West Africa as a region characterized by democratic governance, a perception already under strain due to recent military takeovers in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The crisis in Abuja deepened as President Macky Sall's decision coincided with the expulsion of opposition members from the National Assembly, further intensifying internal tensions within Senegal. Parliamentary supporters of the president voted to delay the polls until December 15th, leading to widespread protests and highlighting the fragility of democratic institutions in the face of political actions. The additional crisis in Abuja also highlighted the broader challenge facing ECOWAS in maintaining a united front against the rise of military regimes across West Africa. While the initial purpose of the meeting was to address military withdrawals, the Senegal situation revealed a different facet of the region's struggles with political stability and democratic governance. The ministers were forced to grapple with the immediate crisis and the overarching question of fostering a cohesive and resilient political unity within ECOWAS. Why has ECOWAS failed to do anything? Did military takeovers make ECOWAS weak? The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, confronts challenges in its efforts to counter military takeovers and uphold constitutional governance within the region. The evolving political landscape, historical legacies, and internal dynamics of member states contribute to the complexity of these challenges. One of the primary challenges lies in the historical context of military interventions in West Africa. The region has witnessed periodic coups and military takeovers, which have, at times, disrupted the democratic processes and stability of member states. The military regimes often justify their actions by portraying ECOWAS as an overbearing external influence, particularly influenced by former colonial powers such as France. But is it just blame? Many times ECOWAS showed itself to be controlled by external pressures, and this makes its control in the region less, as more and more nations are aware of ECOWAS being a puppet. This narrative resonates with sections of the population, creating a complex dynamic where military leaders garner domestic support by proving ECOWAS interventions as external interference. The case of Mali serves as a poignant example. The military junta in Mali fortified its domestic support by proving ECOWAS as meddling neighbors influenced by France, thus painting the regional bloc as an unwelcome external force. Such perceptions expose ECOWAS's efforts to counter military takeovers effectively. Economic sanctions, a tool often employed by ECOWAS to pressure military regimes, present another set of challenges. While sanctions aim to exert economic pressure and incentivize a return to constitutional governance, their impact on the general population can be counterproductive. In the cases of Mali and Niger, the severe economic sanctions imposed by ECOWAS led to hardships for the citizens, including surging prices, strained government finances, and the risk of salary payments being compromised. Paradoxically, instead of weakening the military regimes, these measures fueled popular resentment and temporarily strengthened support for them. Diplomatic efforts, particularly mediation led by countries with amicable ties to the military regimes such as Togo, offer potential solutions. However, achieving consensus among diverse stakeholders remains challenging. Rumors of potential breakthroughs and draft agreements often give way to disappointment, as demonstrated by Niger's abrupt withdrawal from ECOWAS, casting doubt on the efficacy of diplomatic interventions in maintaining regional stability. A critical aspect of ECOWAS's challenge is its perceived inconsistency in its response to the different governance challenges. While the regional body takes a firm stance against military takeovers, critics argue that it remains silent or ineffective when elected civilian leaders orchestrate constitutional coups by manipulating or extending their terms in office. For instance, in Guinea in 2020 and Togo in previous years, constitutional changes enabled leaders to seek additional terms, casting doubt on ECOWAS's commitment to upholding democratic governance standards consistently. The organization faces accusations of hypocrisy and double standards, creating a credibility gap that undermines its moral authority and diminishes its ability to rally public support for initiatives compelling leaders to reinstate democratic governance. ECOWAS has been actively seeking alternative measures to address constitutional manipulation in response to these challenges. Proposals for region-wide limits on presidential terms are under consideration, acknowledging the need for a comprehensive approach to reinforce democratic norms. However, these proposed changes are still pending approval, leaving ECOWAS with the immediate task of utilizing existing tools. Peer group pressure of West African regional political culture remains one of the most potent instruments at ECOWAS's disposal. The recent events in Liberia, where President George Weah demonstrated a peaceful transition of power by conceding defeat, exemplify the positive outcomes that can arise from peer pressure within the region. Is ECOWAS facing criticisms regarding its response to constitutional manipulations by civilian leaders? ECOWAS faces criticism for its inconsistency in responding to constitutional manipulations by civilian leaders. While the organization takes a firm stance against military takeovers, instances in Guinea, Togo, and Benin raise questions about its effectiveness in upholding democratic governance standards. The criticisms directed at ECOWAS stem from its seemingly inconsistent approach to dealing with constitutional manipulations by civilian leaders. The organization has been vocal in condemning military takeovers, emphasizing the importance of upholding democratic principles. However, instances in countries like Guinea, Togo, and Benin have highlighted a disparity in ECOWAS's response to similar challenges civilian leaders pose. Guinea, Togo, and Benin are notable cases where ECOWAS's response to constitutional manipulations by civilian leaders has come under scrutiny. President Alpha Conde's controversial bid for a third term in Guinea sparked protests and raised questions about the organization's ability to address democratic backsliding. Togo and Benin faced issues related to changes in electoral laws, limiting political competition, and raising concerns about the erosion of democratic norms. While ECOWAS has consistently condemned military takeovers and imposed sanctions on countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, its response to constitutional manipulations by civilian leaders has been less stringent. The organization's approach raises questions about its commitment to maintaining democratic governance and enforcing its standards across member states. What factors contribute to the inconsistency in ECOWAS's response? Several factors contribute to the perceived inconsistency in ECOWAS's response to constitutional manipulations by civilian leaders. One factor is the geopolitical dynamics within the organization, with some member states maintaining closer ties with leaders facing allegations of democratic erosion. Additionally, member states' lack of a unified approach to addressing these challenges weakens ECOWAS's collective stance against constitutional manipulations. Has ECOWAS taken any steps to address the criticisms and strengthen its response to constitutional manipulations? ECOWAS, in response to the criticisms, has taken steps to address the challenges posed by constitutional manipulations. The organization has initiated diplomatic efforts, engaging in dialogue with member states to encourage adherence to democratic principles. However, the effectiveness of these measures remains a subject of debate, with critics arguing for more decisive actions to ensure a consistent and robust response. But has ECOWAS even said or done anything about the decision to postpone elections? ECOWAS has maintained a conspicuous silence and refrained from expressing any opinion or taking a stance on the president's decision to postpone Senegal's election. This reserved response from the regional organization raises questions about the extent of ECOWAS's influence and its capacity to intervene effectively in situations threatening democratic norms. The significance of ECOWAS's decision to withhold commentary lies in its implications for the organization's role in promoting peace and stability. The postponement of the election in Senegal triggered protests and civil unrest, highlighting the potential for internal discord. ECOWAS, traditionally seen as a regional force capable of influencing political developments, refraining from any substantial response signals, a limitation in its ability to address and mitigate the consequences of political decisions made by member states. The organization's withdrawal from actively engaging in the situation in Senegal, especially after the riots, highlights the challenges and complexities inherent in its role. While ECOWAS is designed to foster economic cooperation and political solidarity among its member states, the organization's response to the president's decision showcases the limitations in its capacity to enforce its principles and maintain stability in the face of internal challenges. The silence from ECOWAS raises broader questions about its effectiveness in upholding democratic values and addressing issues that may compromise political stability within the region. The reluctance to intervene or provide a clear stance after the riots suggests a certain level of helplessness or unwillingness to confront political decisions that could potentially undermine the democratic ideals that ECOWAS aims to uphold. ECOWAS is failing. So, what are the potential consequences if ECOWAS fails to uphold fundamental constitutional principles in the case of Senegal's postponed election? The potential consequences of ECOWAS failing to uphold fundamental constitutional principles in the case of Senegal's postponed election are far-reaching. They could have profound implications for the country and the broader West African region. The integrity and credibility of ECOWAS as a regional governing body are at stake, and the fallout from such a failure could manifest in several dimensions. First and foremost, the failure to address and rectify the postponement of Senegal's election by constitutional principles may significantly erode democratic values and processes within the country. Senegal, historically recognized for its political stability and commitment to democratic governance, could experience a decline in public trust and confidence in its democratic institutions. This erosion of trust could lead to heightened political polarization, increased social unrest, and a potential loss of faith in the democratic system among the Senegalese populace. Internationally, the repercussions would not be limited to Senegal alone. ECOWAS, as a regional body tasked with promoting peace, stability, and democratic governance, would face a severe blow to its credibility. The international community, particularly other African nations, and global democratic institutions, would likely view ECOWAS skeptically if it fails to address a deviation from constitutional principles effectively within one of its member states. The consequences could extend to the broader West African region, influencing the perception of ECOWAS as an effective guardian of democratic norms. Other member states might question the organization's ability to uphold its principles, potentially undermining the cohesiveness and collective strength of the regional bloc. This, in turn, could create a ripple effect with implications for regional stability, cooperation, and the resolution of future political crises. Furthermore, Senegal's postponed election is not just a domestic matter. It has international dimensions. If ECOWAS fails to ensure adherence to constitutional principles, it may be seen as endorsing or tolerating actions that deviate from democratic norms. This could encourage leaders in other member states to similarly manipulate constitutional processes, leading to a precedent of impunity that threatens the very foundations of democratic governance across the region. The potential for a broader legitimacy crisis looms large. ECOWAS derives its authority from the collective trust placed in it by member states and their citizens. Suppose the organization is perceived as unable or unwilling to intervene effectively in cases where democratic principles are compromised. Its moral authority and legitimacy as a regional governance body may be questioned in that case. This crisis of legitimacy could hinder ECOWAS's ability to garner public support for future initiatives and interventions. Internationally, the failure to address Senegal's election postponement may invite criticism from democratic institutions, human rights organizations, and foreign governments. This could lead to diplomatic strains, affecting the standing of ECOWAS on the global stage. The U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee's criticism of Senegal's President Macky Sall steering the country towards dictatorship indicates the potential scrutiny that ECOWAS might face on the international front. In the long term, failing to uphold fundamental constitutional principles in Senegal could set a precedent for other West African nations. Leaders may feel encouraged to manipulate democratic processes, undermine constitutional norms, and extend their terms in office without fear of significant regional repercussions. This could contribute to a broader trend of democratic backsliding within the region, posing a direct threat to the democratic gains over the years. Do you think this crisis exposes ECOWAS? Do some external forces control ECOWAS? Should nations make any efforts to end this organization? Let us know in the comment section. What's the point of keeping an organization that does not serve? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.